Welcome to the channel. My name is Dennis, and you might have heard of a man named Oskar Schindler. They did a movie about him called Schindler's List, right? Steven Spielberg. And what a great true story that was, where a German man saved the lives of over 1,000 Jewish people during the war. But many, including myself until recently, have never heard of a Catholic Portuguese man named Aristides de Sousa Mendes. And he saved over 30,000 people in June of 1940, 10,000 of which were Jews. It is said that no other person saved as many people single-handedly during World War II from the Nazis as he did. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this man's incredible life and the sad reality of how he ended up dying in shame, destitute, impoverished. And it was decades before his own Portuguese government came to recognize his incredible sacrifice and efforts for the good of humanity in standing up against the evils of Nazism. So Aristides de Sousa Mendes was born in northern Portugal in a wealthy aristocratic family. And he and his twin brother went to Coimbra University, one of the premier universities in all of Europe, still is. And he became a diplomat. So he served in a Portuguese consulate in various countries. But in the late 1930s, he found himself in Bordeaux, France. And Aristides de Sousa Mendes was married, 14 children. Number 15 was on the way. But unfortunately, Hitler and Nazis were beginning their takeover of Europe. And they had invaded, of course, Poland initially, and then one country fell thereafter, and they were making their way into France, and then they were now in Paris, right? And so by this time, by May of 1940, millions of people were fleeing away from their homes to get away from this murderous regime. And many of them were heading south of France, right? Because Hitler was now in Paris. So there is this Catholic man, Aristides de Sousa Mendes, with a moral dilemma on his hands because his government, the dictator of Portugal, Salazar, had issued a decree called Circular 14 that stated nobody was going to be issuing any visas, certainly not to any Jews. You see, Portugal wanted to proclaim their neutrality in World War II, but they ended up having to play both sides to try to keep the peace themselves and keep from being invaded by one country or another. And obviously, the Nazis had put a lot of pressure on the Portuguese government not to allow any refugees into Portugal, so that way they were basically trapped in Europe, trapped in France, that they couldn't escape. And Aristides de Sousa Mendes, in the fall of 1939, had gone against this decree and allowed a few people, Jewish people, with visas. One was a rabbi. And he got in a lot of trouble, verbal reprimand, but he was able to keep his job and told, don't do it again. So here it is in June of 1940, thousands and thousands of people are outside of his consulate office waiting and trying and begging and praying to get a visa. So that way they could go to Portugal and from there, from Lisbon, get on a train. Take a boat or a plane anywhere to the UK, to Brazil, to the US, just to escape Hitler. And so he felt such compassion for these refugees that he started taking them into his own house. Here he is, he's already got 14 children and a wife. And so he's taking in nursing mothers, women that were pregnant, people that were elderly, the sick, and he was putting them up, feeding them in his own home. And he couldn't issue any visas because, so, he had time to care for these people, but it really was gnawing at him, his inability to help these people and really do something for their sake. And he went into his bedroom for 3 days, had this moral dilemma about what to do. And then through prayer and thinking, he came out of that bedroom with the conviction that I don't care what happens to me. I am going to give everybody and anybody that wants a visa starting today. So he said that even if I am discharged, I can only act as a Christian as my conscience tells me. So for 9 days straight, all day, all night, not even sleeping, he issued thousands and thousands of these visas. And some very prominent people were part of that crowd waiting to get their visas. One was the artist Salvador Dali. There was also the Rothschild banking family that he saved by issuing visas. Also H.A. and Margaret Ray. And he was the author of Curious George. So he literally, all these people had just about the clothes on their backs, and that's it. Mr. Ray had with him only a manuscript of Curious George. And because of the sacrifice of Aristides de Sousa Mendes, the Curious George author was able to get a visa and go to the U.S. Shortly thereafter, published his manuscript, and now the world knows and loves Curious George. And also there was a couple, Marcel Deliotte and Madeleine Lebeau, famous actors at the time, who also were issued visas. And coincidentally, a couple years later, they would appear in a movie that was about refugees seeking transit to Portugal called Casablanca. But they were saved. And so the government, Salazar from Portugal, sent a letter to Aristides de Sousa Mendes saying to stop. And he didn't. He went to other parts of southern France, several cities, and continued to issue these visas for them. And again, over 30,000 people's lives were saved, over 10,000 Jewish people. Unfortunately, things did not bode well afterwards for Aristides de Sousa Mendes. He was brought before a trial in July of 1940, and his pension was stripped. He was forced to retire. He was blacklisted. The Portuguese government wanted nothing more of him because of his disobedience, and they were going to make his name mud and make life very difficult for him and his family in such a way that he couldn't find employment after that. Within a few years, his wife would die, and I don't think he lived another 10 years beyond that, but he was destitute. And just to be able to pay off debts, he had to sell his huge, beautiful estate in northern Portugal. He couldn't provide for his children. They ended up scattering, going in different directions, in different countries around the world. And sadly, again, Mr. Mendes died penniless, destitute, and in shame. And the government of Portugal purposely kept the files under lock and key. And it wasn't until some of the people, the families that he had saved, were trying to make his name to be more well known and for him to get the respect that he deserved. And it wasn't until the 1980s, believe it or not, that the United States Congress, I don't know exactly formally what they had done, but they declared Aristides de Sousa Mendes as a hero, and made it so much that the Portuguese government was now shamed into, having no choice but to start recognizing this great man for the sacrifice that he did. So the Israel government was also, promoting his cause. And when the U.S. Congress did this in the 1980s, Portugal finally, after 40 plus years, finally started giving this man the credit he deserves. And now there are many monuments, places named after him because of his tireless work of issuing all those visas over that period of time in June of 1940. His house, his huge, beautiful estate, had become a ruin over time. Fortunately, in recent years, it has been remodeled and is now a museum that you can visit when you're there in northern Portugal in Cabanas de Viriato. I will put a link in the description below. You can actually visit that museum and contact them directly. And fortunately, they have a foundation and a database set up of survivors of families that he had saved in that time of 1940. And they can keep connected now. And that list continues to grow. There's over 3,000 people that are alive today that are part of this database. So wonderful work that they are doing. And myself, I just found out about who this man was just a few weeks ago. So a fascinating story. And again, everybody knows Oskar Schindler and Schindler's List. And I just feel more people need to know about this incredible man, Aristides de Sousa Mendes. So I hope you enjoy this information. Continue to like, subscribe, and share this content. And hope to see you in heaven. Take care.